Black Hollow Prison had been closed for 31 years, at least according to every public record I could find. The state website said it was decommissioned after a fire in the East Block. Local articles called it a money pit, a bad reminder of older, crueler corrections work, the kind of place politicians like to condemn after it stopped being useful. By the time I first saw it, the fences were half swallowed by weeds, the guard towers leaned like rotten teeth, and every window on the upper floors had been boarded from the inside. That should have been the first thing that bothered me. Buildings get boarded from the outside when people want to keep vandals out. Black Hollow looked like someone had sealed it while standing in the dark, afraid of what might follow them through the glass. I was 28 then, newly divorced, behind on rent, and too proud to ask my brother for money. So when a private security contractor called Marrow and Pike offered me night work at $42 an hour, no questions asked, I did what desperate men do. I ignored the parts of the job description that didn't make sense. Remote site monitoring restricted state property. No public interaction, no personal recording devices. Must be comfortable underground. The woman on the phone asked if I had any religious objections to witnessing capital punishment. I laughed because I thought she was making a bad joke. She did not laugh with me. Answer yes or no, Mr. Harlan, she said. No, I told her. Any history of sleepwalking, auditory hallucinations, or missing time? Number any living parent currently employed by the State Corrections Department? That one stopped me. My father had died before I finished high school. My mother had disappeared when I was 6, which was the polite family word for abandoned. I told the recruiter no. She paused long enough for me to hear paper sliding across a desk. Report to Black Hollow Prison tomorrow at 6:40 p.m. Bring no one. Tell no one. If you are early, wait outside the gate. If you are late, do not approach the property. I almost asked what that meant, but the line went dead. The next evening, the prison waited at the end of a county road that my GPS refused to name. Rain had turned the gravel into black paste. There was no sign, no active checkpoint, nothing but rusted fencing and a steel gate that opened before I touched it. A camera mounted on a dead light pole followed my car as I drove in. The main entrance smelled like wet concrete and old smoke. A man in a gray uniform checked my license under a yellow desk lamp. He did not give his name. He only handed me a plastic visitor badge with my photograph already printed on it, though I had never sent them one. Elevators through processing, he said. I thought this was orientation. It is. Processing was a narrow hallway lined with empty holding cells. The floor had been scrubbed clean, but the drains were stained dark around the edges. At the end waited an elevator with polished steel doors, far newer than anything else in the prison. Above the call button was a black plaque engraved with 3 lines. Death row access, last rites clearance required. Witnesses only beyond this point. I read it twice, hoping the words would change into something practical. Evidence storage, disaster, archive. Anything but what they were. The elevator opened by itself. Cold air rolled out first, carrying a smell like rainwater trapped in a coffin. Somewhere below, so deep it seemed to rise through the soles of my shoes. A sound moved through the shaft. At first I thought it was machinery. Then it laughed. Not loudly, not close. It was a slow, bubbling laugh. The kind a man might make underwater if he had been drowning for a very long time and had finally seen someone new arrive. I stepped inside anyway. The badge on my chest warmed against my shirt, and the elevator began to descend before I could reach for the open button. With my shaking hand, the elevator did not feel like it was going down. That was the first thing I noticed after the doors sealed. There was no stomach drop, no grinding cable, no mechanical shutter. The numbers above the panel simply went dark, and the air pressure changed until my ears popped. For nearly a minute, I stood inside that bright steel box with my hand hovering over buttons that were not labeled in any language I recognized. When the doors opened, I was no longer in Black Hollow Prison. Not the prison everyone could see anyway. The hallway beyond the elevator was clean, narrow, and painfully white. Fluorescent lights hummed behind frosted panels. Cameras sat in black glass bubbles every 20 feet. The walls were concrete. but too smooth, poured recently, and sealed with something that made the place smell faintly of bleach, dust, and candle wax. A man waited for me beside a security desk. He looked older than the building above us, though not weak. Tall, thin, straight-backed, with silver hair combed so precisely it might have been painted on. His suit was black, his tie was black, and his eyes were the pale gray of old ash. He held a clipboard in one hand and a small brass bell in the other. "Mr. Daniel Harlan," he said. I nodded because my throat had gone dry. "I'm Warden Elias Vale. You are 4 minutes early. That is acceptable once. Do not make a habit of it." "I was told not to be late, and you listened. That puts you ahead of 2 men buried under the west yard." I waited for him to smile. He did not. Vale placed the brass bell on the desk and slid the clipboard toward me. The top page was a confidentiality agreement thicker than my divorce papers. Most of it was legal language, but a few phrases stood out immediately. Posthumous liability, spiritual contamination, consent to witness waiver of ordinary death-related trauma. "What exactly is this place?" I asked. "Death row," Vale said. "For who?" "For creatures the law has condemned and nature has failed to remove." I stared at him, waiting for a better answer. He gave me none. Vale took a fountain pen from his coat and tapped the signature line. "The beings housed here cannot be released. They cannot be rehabilitated. They cannot be executed by conventional means. Some were human once. Some wore human faces long before humans learned to fear them. Your role is not to punish them. Your role is to observe, record, and remain alive." "That's not funny." "No," he said. "It has never been funny." I should have walked back into the elevator then. I thought about it. Rent, pride, and the promise of money kept my shoes planted. I signed. Vale gave me 3 things. First, a black radio with no channel dial, only a red button taped under a plastic guard. Second, a silver key on a chain cold enough to sting my palm. Third, a small black notebook with my name embossed on the cover. "The radio is for emergencies," he said. "If you press the red button, speak clearly and keep speaking until someone answers, even if the first voice is familiar." I looked at the key. "What does this open?" "Nothing you should open alone." "And the notebook?" "Everything you see, nothing you assume." He led me through another locked door. Beyond it, a long corridor stretched into darkness, lined with reinforced cell doors. From somewhere far away came a wet, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on the inside of a pipe. Vale stopped beneath a sign that read "Witness Walk." "7 rules govern this row," he said. "You will memorize them before morning, but one matters before all others." He turned to face me. "If an inmate asks for you by name, do not answer. Do not acknowledge it. Do not ask how they know you." A voice whispered from the dark ahead. "Daniel." Vale closed his eyes. "Especially then," he said. His hand tightened around the bell until his knuckles blanched. For the first time, I realized the warden was not warning me because I was new. He was afraid too. Vale did not let me turn toward the voice. His hand closed around my elbow with surprising strength, and he guided me away from the dark corridor, as if I had nearly stepped in front of a moving truck. The whisper had been soft, almost bored, but hearing my name come from that hallway made my skin tighten under my uniform. "You heard nothing," Vale said. "I heard my name." "Then you heard nothing useful." He took me into a room marked Briefing 3. It looked like any security office I had ever worked in, right down to the burnt coffee smell and the laminated procedure sheets taped beside the monitors. That normality almost made the place worse. There were rolling chairs, time cards, a microwave, a corkboard full of shift notices, and behind the glass wall, a row of screens showing doors that looked too heavy for any prison built by the state. Vale handed me a laminated card. "Read them aloud." The heading said Black Hollow Witness Protocol. Rule 1, never speak first. I looked up. "Read," Vale said. I continued. Rule 2, never use an inmate's true name, even if it appears in the file. Rule 3, never open a cell without 2 witnesses and 1 armed officer present. Rule 4, never trust silence from a condemned cell. Rule 5, never look through the lower window of cell 9. Rule 6, never record prayers, hymns, last words, or apologies. Rule 7, if a prisoner asks for you by name, do not respond. The final rule had been printed in thicker ink than the others, not bold exactly, repeated, as if someone had traced over it again and again until the letters looked bruised. I tried to laugh. It came out wrong. These are the rules. These are the ones that fit on a card. A woman sitting at the far monitor turned slightly in her chair. She was broad-shouldered, maybe 50, with cropped gray hair and a scar that split her upper lip. Her name patch read D. Morrow. She had been watching me since I entered. New ones always smile at Rule 6, she said. I wasn't smiling. You were thinking it was superstition. I did not answer because she was right, and because the room had gone quiet, Morrow tapped one of the screens. 3 years ago, a guard recorded an inmate saying the Lord's Prayer backward. He wanted to show his wife. By morning, his phone had sent the file to everyone in his contacts. His wife played it twice before we reached her house. What happened? Morrow's expression flattened. She apologized to something in the nursery until her tongue split. Vale said her name softly, and she went quiet. That is why we do not record prayers, he said. Not because we respect them, because some things listen for them. He moved to the monitors and pointed down the row. You will work witness walk from midnight to 6. You do not patrol for bravery. You patrol because the condemned behave differently when watched by living eyes. Machines miss context. Men notice shame, hunger, imitation. What if I see something wrong? You write it down. What if it's urgent? You call it in. What if it asks me a question? Morrow laughed once without humor. You keep walking. Vale looked at her, then back to me. The inmates will bargain. They will threaten. Some will sound like children. Some will sound like people you buried. None of them are speaking for your benefit. He slid the black notebook across the table. Its cover felt warm now. Everything you see, he repeated. Nothing you assume. At 11:57, Morrow walked me to the start of the row. She checked my radio, my key, and the body camera clipped to my chest, then leaned close enough for me to smell peppermint on her breath. You'll want to look at cell 9, she said. Everyone does. I won't. That's what everyone says. Somewhere nearby, a monitor began softly ticking. The lights above the corridor flickered once. Far down the row, something knocked 3 times from behind a sealed door. Morrow stepped back. Midnight, she said. Start walking. By the end of my first week, I understood why Black Hollow needed witnesses. The condemned did not behave for cameras. On screen, most of them looked harmless. Cell 2 showed a woman seated on the edge of a metal cot, hands folded in her lap, hair hanging over her face. Cell 4 showed a small boy drawing circles on the wall with a broken crayon. Cell 6 showed an old preacher kneeling beside his bed, shoulders shaking like he was praying. Through the cell doors, they were something else entirely. Morrow called the woman in Cell 2 Ash Mary. No real names, Rule 2. She had been sentenced in 1978 after 3 churches burned on the same night, each one full, each one locked from the inside. At midnight, every night flames crawled out of her skin. They started beneath her fingernails, then climbed her wrists, her arms, her throat, until she sat there burning like a candle made of meat. The first time I saw it happen, I reached for the alarm. Morrow caught my wrist. Wait. Mary did not scream. That was worse. She only looked through the narrow observation slit with calm, patient eyes while the flames peeled her face away. The cell sprinklers triggered. Steam filled the window. Something inside that white cloud whispered names I did not recognize. At 12:03, the smoke cleared. Mary sat untouched on the cot, hands folded again. Execution method 17, Morrow said. Fire, still pending. I wrote that down because my hand needed something to do. Cell 4 was worse for reasons I could not explain. The boy inside looked maybe 8 years old. but his file was thicker than a phone book and older than my father would have been. He spent every shift drawing circles, sometimes chalk, sometimes crayon, sometimes a wet red line from his own palm. What did he do? I asked. Morrow shook her head. That's not the question. What is he doing? When we passed his cell, the boy pressed his face to the glass. His eyes were pale blue and too tired for a child. Did I grow up yet? He asked. Morrow kept walking. The next night, he looked 6. The night after that, maybe 5. Each time, the circles on his wall multiplied. In cell 6, the preacher never stopped praying, but his shadow did not pray with him. His body knelt facing the bed. His shadow stood against the wall, hands raised, confessing murders in a voice like dry leaves. It described basements, rivers, schoolyards, names, places no man could have known. Morrow told me 3 cold cases had been solved from listening to that shadow. Why not record it? I asked. She gave me a look. Rule 6. Then there was cell 8, where the execution chair stayed bolted to the floor. The prisoner strapped to it had no eyes, no lips, and no pulse. Once every hour, electricity passed through him with enough force to dim the corridor lights. Each time, the chair melted slightly around his wrists. Each time, his head turned a fraction more toward the door. By Friday, I stopped asking what they had done. The question had started to feel childish. Black Hollow was not a place where justice ended. It was a place where death was repeated, measured, documented, and filed away by tired people with coffee breath and shaking hands. Nobody cheered when the condemned burned, drowned, starved, froze, or woke again. Nobody acted like punishment mattered. On my 7th shift, I finally asked Morrow why they called it death row if nothing here could die. She checked the corridor behind us before answering. Because execution isn't the point. Then what is? From somewhere below the floor, the witness bell gave one soft ring, though no one had touched it. Morrow's face went pale. Because something eventually comes to collect, she said. Morrow refused to explain the bell. She only took my arm and pulled me toward the guard station at the end of Witness Walk, moving faster than I had seen her move all week. The sound had been soft, almost delicate, but every door on the row reacted to it. Cell 2 went dark. Cell 4's crayon stopped scratching. Cell 6's shadow fell silent while the preacher kept whispering into his blanket. Even the man in Cell 8 stopped turning his head. That was how I first learned fear had a hierarchy. Some things terrified men. Some things terrified monsters. And some things made both hold their breath. At the station, Morrow locked the inner door, checked 3 monitors, then pressed her thumb against a scanner beneath the desk. A steel panel slid down over the corridor window. Only then did she breathe. What was that? I asked. Nothing you're cleared for. You keep saying that. And you keep living because I do. She took the black notebook from my hand, flipped to the page where I had written the time, then crossed out the word bell so hard the pen tore through the paper. Don't write that unless it rings twice. What happens if it rings twice? Morrow looked toward the last monitor on the wall. Unlike the others, that screen had no cell number printed above it. Someone had taped a strip of black electrical tape over the label. The feed showed a concrete room with a single wooden chair in the center, bolted to a floor wet enough to reflect the ceiling light. The walls were smooth. No bed, no toilet, no sink, no visible door, just the chair and the water. For the first few seconds, I thought the cell was empty. Then the image shifted. Something sat in the chair, or near it, or behind it. I could not tell which. It was shaped like a person only because my mind wanted it to be. A tall blur occupied the space, the way heat rises off pavement in summer. The edges of it bent the camera feed. When I tried to focus, my eyes watered. That's cell 9, Morrow said. I remembered Rule 5 and looked away from the lower half of the screen before I understood why. Why isn't it numbered? It knows numbers. I waited for her to say more. She did not. Later, when curiosity outweighed common sense, I found the architectural file in a locked drawer Morrow had forgotten to close. Cell 9 was not built like the others. Every door on Witness Walk opened outward into the hall. Every observation slit faced the guard. Every camera mounted high, angled down. Cell 9 was reversed. The door was inside the chamber, facing inward, bolted from the side no guard could reach. The observation window was placed low to the ground, almost at kneeling height. The camera was mounted behind a sheet of blackened glass, angled at the chair, as if whoever designed the cell had been less concerned with watching the prisoner than avoiding its attention. There were no construction dates, only 3 signatures. Warden Vale's was the newest. The oldest belonged to a woman named Mara Harlan. My mother's first name was Mara. I told myself it was coincidence. Harlan was not rare enough to panic over. Mara was uncommon, sure, but not impossible. Black Hollow had been open for generations before it officially closed. Records got messy, names repeated, people lied. Still, for the rest of that shift, I felt cell 9 behind every thought. At 2:12, the corridor temperature dropped 10 degrees. At 2:14, the water on the cell 9 floor began to ripple. At 2:16, the wooden chair moved 1 inch to the left without anything touching it. Morrow stood beside me at the monitor wall, arms folded, jaw tight. "Don't blink at 2:17, she said. "I thought I wasn't supposed to look. You're supposed to witness. There's a difference." The clock changed, 2:17. On the screen, the blur turned toward the camera. Not quickly, not dramatically. It moved with the slow certainty of something that had done this every night for longer than anyone alive had been counting. The chair stayed still, but the shape did not. The wet floor reflected too many limbs, too much height for the room. Then the feed froze. A storm hit above us hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Every monitor blinked except cell 9's. Its frozen image remained, the blur facing forward, almost patient. Morrow reached for the radio. Before she pressed the button, the screen changed again. Words appeared in the condensation on the inside of the camera glass, written backward so we could read them. "He is late." The words stayed on the monitor for less than 3 seconds. "He is late." Then the condensation ran downward, and the cell 9 feed returned to its blur. Morrow stood with the radio in her hand, thumb over the emergency button, eyes fixed on the screen, as if the thing inside might notice. "Who is late?" I asked. "No one, Morrow." She turned fast enough to make me step back. "You do not ask cell 9 follow-up questions. Not out loud, not in your head if you can help it." That was written on the camera. It was written for the camera. Storm battered the dead prison above us. Rainwater hissed in ducts. Every few seconds the lights dipped, came back, then dipped again. The backup power did not comfort me. Places like Black Hollow did not fail because a transformer blew. They failed because something old got tired of pretending it was contained. Morrow called Warden Vale. Her voice stayed flat. Written communication, 4 words, no second bell, a pause. "No, sir," he saw it. Her eyes flicked toward me. "Yes, sir, I understand." She ended the call. That was when the power flickered hard enough to kill every monitor. For half a second, Witness Walk disappeared. In the dark, I heard doors breathing. Not opening, not rattling, breathing. Long, damp inhales through steel and concrete, as if every condemned thing on the row had pressed its face to the seam of its cell and drawn in the same scent. Mine, the monitors snapped back. All except cell 9. That screen glowed white, overexposed and empty. The chair was gone. The water was gone. The blur was gone. For one impossible moment, it showed a room I recognized, faded blue wallpaper, baseball stickers on a closet door, a twin bed beneath a painted shut window, my childhood bedroom. I made a sound I hated immediately. Morrow saw it. "Daniel." On the monitor, something stepped into frame wearing an orange death row uniform so old, the fabric looked gray. It was tall enough that its head nearly touched the ceiling. Bone, thin, barefoot. Its wrists were bound in chains that trailed upward, disappearing above the picture. A black hood covered its face. Then it removed the hood. I still cannot describe what was underneath, because remembering it too directly makes my nose bleed. It had the suggestion of a human face, The way a stain can suggest one if you stare long enough. Hollow cheeks. A mouth cut too low. Eyes hidden under skin that moved like wet paper. The intercom beside the monitor clicked on. Morrow lunged for the mute switch. It was already off. Daniel Andrew Harlan, the prisoner said. My full name hit me harder than a shout would have. My mother was the only person who ever used my middle name, not my father, her Morrow whispered. Do not answer. The prisoner tilted its head, listening to the silence like a reply. You took longer than she promised. My hands went cold. Who? I asked before I could stop myself. Morrow cursed and hit the emergency button. The prisoner smiled without moving its mouth. Mara, it said, your mother promised you would come. The radio screamed. Not static, not feedback, but a chorus of voices saying my name from far away. Every monitor changed at once, each cell showing the same childhood room from a different angle. On one screen, something crawled under my bed. On another, a woman with my mother's hair faced the closet. Then the power came back fully. Witness walk was normal. Cell 9 was only a blur again. Morrow checked my pupils with a penlight. Her hands were steady, but her face had lost all color. What did it show you? She asked. My room. She swallowed. My mother, that made her stop breathing. Vale sent me home before dawn and told me not to return until called. I drove through rain with the radio off. At home, I opened the box my father had left me. Behind my parents' marriage certificate was an employee badge from Black Hollow Prison. Under my mother's face, her last name was Vale. I did not sleep after finding the badge. For nearly an hour, I sat at my kitchen table with my mother's photograph, under the yellow light above the stove, waiting for the paper to become something else. The badge was old, laminated in a style I had only seen in courthouse displays and flea market boxes. Her face was younger than mine was now, dark hair tied back, a smile that looked like someone had asked for it at the wrong time. Mara Vale. Witness Division, Black Hollow Correctional Authority. Not Mara Harlan. Not the woman my father had described as unstable, restless, unable to handle ordinary life. Vale, the same name as the warden who had looked me in the eye and pretended I was just another new hire. By 8 that morning, I had convinced myself of 3 possible explanations. 1, it was a coincidence. 2, Vale had lied. 3, my entire life had been arranged by people who worked under a prison that officially did not exist. The third explanation was the only one that made the badge feel heavy. Vale called at 5:13 that evening. You were scheduled for midnight, he said. My mother worked there. A pause followed. It was short, but not short enough. Many people worked here. Her name was Mara Vale. This time the silence lasted long enough for me to hear my refrigerator hum. Bring the badge, he said, and ended the call. I should have run. Instead, I drove back to Black Hollow with the badge in my coat pocket and a question burning so hot inside me that fear could not smother it. The prison looked different after you knew it had kept part of your bloodline. The towers were not ruins anymore. They were witnesses. Vale met me at the elevator alone. You knew, I said. I suspected. That is not an answer. It is the safest version of one. He looked older than he had 2 nights before. The precise suit was the same, but his face seemed thinner, stretched over bone and regret. He did not ask for the badge. He only glanced at the pocket where I carried it. Was she your daughter? He closed his eyes. For a time, the elevator opened behind him. What does that mean? It means you have already asked too much in the wrong place. He brought me down without another word. Morrow was not at the station when we arrived. No one was. Witness Walk sat empty under steady white lights, every cell silent in a way I had been warned never to trust. Vale took me past briefing 3, past the monitor room, to a locked archive door I had never noticed. The silver key around his neck opened it. Inside were shelves of black notebooks, hundreds of them, each spine had a name. Some I recognized from old shift rosters. Some were dates instead. Some were marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Vale went to the back wall and removed a ledger bound in cracked brown leather. "Execution failures," he said. He opened it to a page marked 26 years earlier. My mother's signature was there, Mara Vale. Beside it were 3 other signatures, including Elias Vale's. The entry was written in a careful hand. Cell 9, sentence deferred, offer accepted, return when called. My mouth went dry. Beneath the ledger page, tucked into a transparent evidence sleeve, was a hospital bracelet, small enough for a newborn. Harlan Daniel A. Time of birth, 217. I backed away from the table. Number Vale did not move. "The prisoner was not sentenced by the state," he said quietly. "It was offered to us long before Black Hollow had a name. Every generation it names a witness. Every generation someone bargains for delay. My mother bargained with me, she bargained for you." The cells outside began whispering at once. Not screams, not threats. My name spoken softly through every sealed door on the row. The ledger pages trembled under Vale's fingers, though there was no draft in the archive. Somewhere beyond the wall, the witness bell lifted once, readying itself to ring again soon. The witness bell rang before Vale could close the ledger. One clean note passed through the archive, thin and silver, and every notebook on the shelves answered by trembling in place. Dust lifted from the floor. The lights dimmed to a sick yellow. In the hallway beyond the archive door, the condemned began to wake in whatever way their bodies allowed. Vale shut the ledger with both hands. "Emergency protocol," he said. That bell rang by itself. It always does. He took the silver key from around his neck and pressed it into my palm. The metal burned cold enough to make my fingers ache. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because it was never mine." The radio on his belt crackled. Morrow's voice came through under a layer of static. "Warden, Cell 2 is active early. Cell 4 is aging forward and backward at the same time. Cell 6's shadow is outside the room." Vale grabbed the radio. "All witnesses to stations. No one opens a door without my command." Another voice broke in, young and panicked. "Sir, the doors are cycling." Vale's face changed. Not fear exactly. Recognition. We ran. Witness walk looked longer than it had before, as if the corridor had stretched while no one was watching. Red emergency lights pulsed along the ceiling. Cell 2 glowed orange behind its slit, Ash Mary burning hotter than I had ever seen her. She stood with both palms pressed to the steel, skin charring and healing in waves. "Not for me," she whispered as we passed. "Not tonight." Cell 4's door rattled. Through the glass I saw the boy become an infant, then a grown man, then a folded old thing with a child's eyes. Circles covered every wall, drawn over one another until they formed a tunnel shape. Cell 6 was open. The preacher remained inside on his knees, but his shadow stood in the corridor, tall and black and smiling where a mouth should not have been. Morrow and 2 armed guards faced it with shotguns raised. None of them fired. "Back inside," Morrow said. The shadow turned its head toward me. The sentence found its witness, it said in the preacher's voice. Vale stepped between us and rang the brass handbell he carried. The sound forced the shadow backward like wind pushing smoke. It slid under the cell door, and the locks slammed shut. Then every light went out. In the darkness, the witness bell rang a second time. The row erupted. Something heavy struck one door again and again. Metal screamed. Water poured from the ceiling, though there were no pipes above us. The smell of burned hair, wet stone, and old flowers filled my mouth. My radio spat voices I knew, and voices I should not have known. My father begged me not to come home. My mother told me to run, Vale whispered. Do not believe either. The emergency lights returned, weaker now. At the far end of Witness Walk, Cell 9's covered monitor glowed white. The lower observation window, the one Rule 5 warned us never to look through, had opened. No guard had touched it. A black rain began falling inside the execution chamber at the center of the row. It fell upward from the drain, striking the ceiling in slow drops. The chamber doors unlocked one by one. "Why is the row doing this?" I asked. Vale looked at the silver key in my hand. "Because cell 9 is calling in an old sentence. You said my mother bargained for me. She did." His voice almost broke. She traded herself to delay it, not cancel it. The third bell began to rise before it rang, a pressure building behind my teeth and eyes. Vale seized my shoulders. "When it sounds, every condemned thing here will recognize you as the offered witness. You must open cell 9 from the wrong side. What happens then?" He looked past me toward the dark end of the row. "Either you finish what Mara began," he said, "or Black Hollow finally collects its debt." Behind him, the cells fell silent, waiting for my answer like jurors who had already chosen the verdict years ago. The third bell never finished ringing. It climbed through the corridor, a metal note that made every scar in the prison answer. Vale shoved me toward the end of witness walk, and for 1 second I hated him more than anything behind those doors. Then I saw his face. Whatever duty had kept him alive under Black Hollow had broken into grief. "Mara believed you would choose better than we did," he said. I wanted to ask what that meant, but the cells began opening, not all the way. Just enough for fingers, smoke, heat, whispers, and things shaped like hands to press through. Ash Mary burned behind me. The child in cell 4 laughed with 3 ages in his voice. The preacher's shadow dragged itself along the ceiling. I ran. Cell 9 waited at the end, impossible and quiet. The door facing the hallway had no handle, no hinges, only the low observation window yawning open at my knees. Rule 5 screamed in my head. "Do not look through it." I looked. On the other side was not a cell. It was my childhood bedroom as I remembered it. Blue wallpaper, baseball stickers. The twin bed under the painted shut window, rain tapped against glass that should not exist underground. My mother sat on the edge of the bed, wearing her Black Hollow badge. "Danny," she said. For a moment, I was 6 again. Then she smiled with too many teeth. I put the silver key into the observation window. It turned, the wall split open inward, not toward me, but away from the room itself, like reality had been cut and folded. The thing wearing my mother stood. Behind her, something tall unfolded from the closet, bound in chains that vanished into darkness. "Death row does not kill us," it said with her mouth. "It delays what we are owed. What do you want? What was promised?" I stepped inside far enough to place the key on the bed. "Then take the delay." The prisoner tilted its stolen face. The room shuddered. Somewhere behind me, Vale screamed my mother's name. The bedroom collapsed into wet concrete, and I woke outside the prison at dawn, alone. Black Hollow was sealed above and below. 2 weeks later, I found the number 9 carved inside my apartment door. Last night, from inside the wall beside my bed, the witness bell rang once.